Hi there, Madison High School students. It's nice to see you again. It's week 10. I hope that you all are having a great week so far. This week, we're still taking it a little bit slow. I had a chance to read your editorials, and by and large, I'm very impressed with what you guys came up with. And I'm really excited to see where you all are going in the last part of the semester, because we're getting close to the end. And as we progress, I'll give you some more details about what the end of the semester looks like. I did want to call your attention. I'm going to go ahead and project my screen to what we are going to be doing over the next couple weeks. So if you look right here, the first thing that I want you all to notice is that right here I have an American Choice novel, and this, I'm moving it up to the top, and so I want you all to take a moment and choose a novel that you think that you would like to read for the last part of the semester. Now, on this American Choice novel form, I don't know exactly what you have access to at Madison High School, but I could probably get digital copies if there's something that you really want to read and you don't have access to at your school. So these are the ones I narrowed down. And since this is going to be a choice book, if there's another classic that you're interested in, you are welcome to reach out to me or put a note on here of what you would prefer to read for the last several weeks of reading. Right now I have Invisible Man, Color Purple, Great Gatsby, Kindred, and Their Eyes Were Watching God. These are all fantastic American books. I thoroughly encourage that you go look up some information about all of them so that you make an informed choice. We've read some sections from Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison with the light bulbs, if you remember. Color Purple is by Alice Walker, and so we're reading some of her this week. The Great Gatsby, we read some pieces from that, but it is considered an American classic from the 1920s. Kindred, Afrofuturism, and of course, Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. I didn't include some other classics like Huckleberry Finn on here, but if it's something that you are interested in, just give me a proposal of what you would like to read, and I'm happy to accept. This is just to get an idea so that if you need a digital text or access to something, that I can try to find something for you. So thank you for that. And then on that note, so this week we're mostly doing some fiction, short stories from some of our favorite authors of the postmodern era. And so you're going to see that we've got Clint Smith's The Drone, which is a poem, but everything else, Zora Neale Hurston, Alice Walker, and Toni Morrison are all short fiction. And I've got the slides right here and then some different links in regards to the Genius of the South of Zora Neale Hurston and bringing her back from Clint Smith, and then Toni Morrison's Nobel Prize acceptance speech. On here, the Nobel Prize acceptance speech, you do have access to Toni Morrison reading it, and I do highly recommend that you listen to her read it, but maybe speed it up to 1.5 speed because she does read kind of slow. And then this week, we just have some open-ended questions on Black legacy and a body biography. And so this one is a little bit different from what you're used to for our reading responses, which is exciting because we're doing some more characterization. So we're doing a little bit more multimodal work right now to kind of get our minds stretched a little bit out of the just composition that we've been doing lately. And so this week, you're going to pick one of these texts that you especially enjoyed, and you're going to pick a character that you are going to create a body biography on that focuses on symbols, virtues, colors, placement of their values, and all the instructions are on here. But have fun with it, be creative. You can make it digital, you can hand draw it, whatever you want. But it's really getting in deep to that character and what these characters represent about the American experience. If you have any more questions about it, please let me know. And I really enjoyed seeing everybody's writing, so I am thoroughly enjoying this process, and I hope that you are too. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about contemporary Black authors. Okay, so the readings this week, we're going to be reading some of the most important Black authors of the 20th century, and we're focusing on postmodernism. So, postmodernism is this time period from the 1950s to the present. Now, we are going to look at Zora, who is before this time, but a lot of the authors that we are looking at also were influenced heavily by Zora Neale Hurston. But postmodernism in general is a collective nostalgia for the unattainable, things that were lost, things that were promised as part of the American dream that have been such corrupted and disillusioned. They rewrite and represent the past in fictional sense, and they call attention to shared sensibilities across class, gender, and race. So there's a lot more intersectional conversations that happen starting in this era. Things that consider about postmodern narrative structures, you have a lot of pacing changes. We've got a lot of deliverables with word choice and scene cuts and sentence structure that's very different from what you may have experienced before. There's more dialogue. It's more the point of view gets kind of strained and changed. The voice is very distinct. And the narrative is framed in a way that embeds different stories within it. So just thinking about like the reality of the postmodern experience, it's like a constructed reality. And so in the first piece that you're going to read, Recitative by Toni Morrison, I have this really wonderful clip of Toni Morrison on Stephen Colbert that I really encourage that you all read because it's in regards, or that you watch in regards to race. She goes into a lot of detail here about the constructed aspect of race and how she is not an African American author so much as an American author.
You have to know some.
And so I do want you to read that when you, or see that when you have time. But a couple things that Toni Morrison has said about her great magnum opus, which is called Beloved. Narrative has never been merely entertainment for me. It is, I believe, one of the principal ways in which we absorb knowledge. I hope you will understand then why I begin these remarks with the opening phrase of what must be the oldest sentence in the world and the earliest one we remember from childhood, once upon a time. And that comes from her Nobel Prize acceptance speech. Everyday Use, which is Alice Walker's piece, she was a prolific author, but she was known for The Color Purple. But she focuses on women's experience. She was a womanist. And so a lot of her pieces focus on Black women's experiences. She uses quilts in everyday use as a representation of the past, but then also like a reclamation of identity in the future, and talking about like what is the ownership of cultural identity. So some things that you'll notice in everyday use is there's this struggle between like being considered like in the post-slave era of like what is it to be an enslaved person and their legacy versus the legacy that comes from Africa. And so there was this big movement in the 1960s and 70s to reclaim African identity. And a lot of the piece in everyday use is talking about like, what is the nature of ancestral presence? She also explores women's empowerment and intergenerational conflicts and social and political activism in here. And there's some more information here, but like the difference between the narrators and how unreliable the narrators are, and then the different kind of subclasses of Black women and how they interact with each other. And then Sweat we've read before, so this is more like a revisiting, but you're going to look at Sweat and Zora Neale Hurston just as and you just skim Sweat because we've already done that one. But there are some really great pieces here that I've included for you about her hometown legacy.
Goodbye.
And also an excerpt from Her After Watching God, if it was something that you were interested in possibly reading for your final book. How It Feels to Be Colored Me is another piece by Zora Neale Hurston, which is a beautiful essay. And so that's part of your discussion for this week. And here is a short excerpt in Zora Neale Hurston's essay, How It Feels to Be Colored Me. The author explores themes of identity, race, and individuality through personal experience and reflections. And I included here some really cool little pieces. This is a really interesting poem that relates to Their Eyes Were Watching God. And as you're kind of like delving through some of these issues of like Black authorship and these ideas of like identity and moving forward into like reclaiming American identity, these are your questions for the week. And so I really want you to encourage like deep thinking and focusing in on the characters and what they represent about the American legacy that we've studied thus far and how they're like reinventing themselves. And so I look forward to seeing your body biographies and some of your input about the final book. And this week, I hope that you have fun with the tasks because I'm really looking forward to seeing what you come up with. And have a great week. Bye.
Apparently, Mark Zuckerberg made an effort to bring in access for Chinese market.